On August 23rd, 1992, Tammy Zywicki departed from Evanston, Illinois, and was heading for college in Grinnell, Iowa. She was expected to arrive later that evening. Unfortunately, she never arrived. This is the case of Tammy Zywicki. Tammy was born in Pleasant Hill, Pennsylvania, and grew up in Gainesville, South Carolina. Tammy was known as being vivacious, and she was a talented photographer and soccer player. And of course, she loved all things James Dean. But unfortunately, late in the month of August 1992, a grim discovery would rock everybody that knew Tammy and beyond. Tammy had been driving back to Grinnell College in Iowa after dropping off her brother at Northwestern University. Unfortunately, that's when she went missing. She was last seen with her car near mile marker 83 on Interstate 80. That was just a few miles outside Ottawa and LaSalle County. Her 1985 Pontiac T1000 was found abandoned on I-80. It's then that Tammy's parents flew from their home in New Jersey to help police with the investigation. Unfortunately, more than a week would pass with no sign of Tammy. Interstate 80, or I-80, is an east-west transcontinental freeway that crosses the United States from downtown San Francisco to New Jersey. It is the second longest interstate highway in the United States after I-90, and it runs through many major cities including Oakland, Sacramento, Reno, Salt Lake City, Omaha, and others like that, Chicago, Cleveland, and New York City. Of course, on this highway, there's just long stretches of nothing. It's isolated, it's quiet. It really is the perfect place to go missing. Of course, around this time, Tammy's father, Hank, was holding out hope that his daughter was still alive. During this time, out on I-80, where Tammy's disabled car was found, apparently she broke down. Troopers were looking for a semi-truck that resembled a truck that had been seen alongside Tammy's disabled car that day. An Iowa trucker, his name was Robert Bullington, would come forward and say that he saw Tammy get into a gray Chevrolet Celebrity with a lone male driver. Robert would even say that he talked to the driver, who said the young woman's car had overheated.
On I-80 today, state troopers were looking closely at trucks rolling through. Big rigs, which resemble the truck seen stopped alongside Tammy's disabled car Sunday afternoon. Troopers are looking for the driver, but have not found him yet. At the moment, investigators don't seem to know just what to make of a story being told by an Iowa truck driver. That truck driver, Robert Bullington, says that here, at mile marker 83 along Interstate 80, he saw Tammy, or a person he believes to be Tammy Zywicki, get into a car driven by a lone male driver. The trucker says it was an older, gray Chevrolet Celebrity with Nebraska license plates. He says he talked with the driver by CB radio and directed them to find help at a truck stop nearby.
The only thing I did was ask him, I said, what was the problem? He said, well, a car overheated or something, and I could hear him talking in the background, and he says, what would be a good place to take her to? And I said, well, there's exit 75, there's a 76 truck stop there.
While there is a truck stop and service station at exit 75 in LaSalle, nobody there remembers seeing anyone matching Tammy's description seeking help.
The thing is, nobody remembered seeing Tammy at this truck stop. Tammy's friend, Jen Dowd Nelson, would go on to say, the few times that I went out driving, it was overwhelmingly scary. That as you're driving down roads in Illinois, it's wondering what's happened to my friend, because there's no way that she can be gone for this long without it being terrible. Unfortunately, Jen was right. On the morning of Tuesday, September 1st, 1992, the body of a young woman was found on the side of Interstate 44 near Mount Vernon, Missouri, and a truck driver had made the discovery. Unfortunately, the woman was not immediately identified, but her height, her age, her weight all matched that of Tammy. And on the body was a t-shirt with the legend, quote, East Side Eagles Soccer Club. This was the name of Tammy's high school soccer team. Of course, Tammy's family held out hope that perhaps she was still alive. And so did her classmates at Grinnell College. They would hold candle vigils and hope that she would be found. Tammy's college roommate, Amy Fort, would go on to say, we always felt safe on campus. We felt like we were almost living in a bubble, so to speak. Not that bad things didn't happen, but I think we had a sense of security, a sense of camaraderie, and a community. And then when this happened, the innocence of our early 20s was just ripped from our lives. All around Grinnell campus, yellow ribbons were tied. Amy would go on to say, I knew that she was out there. She was in trouble. There was really 10 days of I wasn't supposed to curse on this, but 10 days of hell. And of course, at this time, everybody is waiting for this body to be identified, and there's a lot of anxiety surrounding this. People are wondering if it is Tammy's, and they're hoping and they're praying that it isn't, that perhaps she just got lost, or maybe she's in a hospital, or maybe something worse happened. Maybe somebody had captured her. Maybe she was being held hostage. There were so many unthinkable things going through everyone's minds. Tammy's roommate would go on to say, you think the worst. You think who might have taken her, who she might be with, what they've done to her. At this time, Tammy's friend Jen was spearheading this effort to find Tammy, and she was doing so from her family home in Oak Park. And really, this home at Oak Park became the base of operations for the search of Tammy. There were constant calls and faxes going in and out in an effort to confirm the victim and find a suspect. During this time, an artist would drop a semi-truck with rust-colored diagonal stripes, and this was circulated as a possible connection between Tammy's disappearance. But then, on September 3rd, the grim reality was revealed. Authorities had used dental records to confirm the body found by the side of the highway in Missouri was indeed Tammy's. The thing is, police told Tammy's family that she may have refused help from at least 2 people when her car broke down, so police thought that Tammy may have been caught off guard, kidnapped, and then stabbed 7 times and left in a ditch. She had also been sexually assaulted. At the time, the only evidence that investigators had were Tammy's body and the fitted sheet and red blanket the killer used to wrap the body before dumping it. Along an access road to the highway remained this blood stain in the gravel. It was caused when police removed the body. They would move it from the brush to the shoulder of the access road for examination. But investigators didn't believe that Tammy was killed near where her body was found. Police, in fact, believed that she had been stabbed to death someplace else, and that whoever killed her had been driving her body for some time. And then at some point, they would dump the body into the underbrush along the access road on I-44. Of course, back on campus, the whole college community was affected, not just students, but college professors, the staff. It really did rip apart the sense of security and safety that they all had. Now everything shifted. They weren't trying to find Tammy anymore. Now, the mission was to find the killer. More than 2,000 people would get involved in trying to help circulate the sketch of this suspected truck with the rust-colored diagonal stripes. Trucking firms and companies from the East Coast even volunteered to help in the effort. And during this time, this so-called command center, they're just kind of pursuing every single lead that they can. But of course, there's this significant amount of grief as they're working to find this killer. After her body was found and, of course, she was identified, a nationwide search would commence. The nonprofit Iowa Cold Cases noted that authorities launched a multi-state task force with 14 investigators from both local forces and the FBI. Of course, several suspects were identified. Lonnie Beerbrot was a trucker and a felon on parole who was questioned early in 1993. They would take blood and hair samples. Apparently, Lonnie had been placed in LaSalle County the day that Tammy had disappeared, and one witness would identify him as the man she saw standing alongside Tammy on the highway. Eerily enough, he also lived near the scene where Tammy's body was found. A witness would say that Lonnie gave away, as a gift, a key piece of evidence, an unusual music box wristwatch of the same kind of watch that was missing from Tammy's suitcase. And although investigators thought that Lonnie was in fact the killer, they ended up releasing him for a lack of evidence. Unfortunately, the task force would disband in February of 1993, and Lonnie Beerbrot died in 2002. Of course, over the years, many people were suspected of harming Tammy, and they were brought in and questioned, and later they would be ruled out. This meant that the case was going cold. When Tammy was murdered, obviously it was a very different time. Outreach was limited, and it was mostly by landlines, telephones, and fax machines. Of course, online, the web as we know it was definitely not the same. It was largely limited to chat rooms and things like that. But in 2009, a Facebook group was made in an effort to find Tammy's killer. And as of August 18, 2023, There are 5,725 members. Tammy's father, Hank, would pass away in 2015. Some agents believe that Tammy's killer is dead, but Tammy's mother, Joanne, would go on to say, even if this person is dead, there's a possibility there were other people with them. There were other people who helped them. There has to be other people that knew about it. Unfortunately, it's coming up on 31 years since Tammy was murdered. The FBI did release a poster, and they noted that some of Tammy's personal property was missing. This included a Canon 35mm camera and a Loris brand musical wristwatch that played the tune Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, with a green umbrella on its face and a green band. The driver that was supposedly seen with Tammy that day that she disappeared was described as a white male between 35 and 40 years of age, over 6 feet tall, with dark, bushy hair. Tammy was born March 13th, 1971. She had blonde hair, green eyes, and she was around 5'2". At the time of her disappearance, she was only 120 pounds. The thing about this case is it's just so incredibly sad. This poor girl was heading back to college. She dropped her brother off. She's driving alone, and then her car overheats at just the absolute worst time. This really does remind me of the Stephanie Roper story that we covered about 9 months ago. Remember, Stephanie was driving home when she became stranded on the side of the road, and unfortunately, 2 people would pull over to help her, and she was kidnapped. It makes me so sad that she was just so vulnerable at that moment, and somebody took advantage. And witnesses did say that she passed up help from 2 people, which meant that Tammy knew that she could be in danger, that she obviously was being very smart about this situation. She didn't want to get in cars with anybody or trucks or anything like that. So somebody must have kidnapped her. Somebody must have used force because she was cautious at that moment. She knew that she could be in a very dangerous situation, and unfortunately, she was right. I'm hopeful because they have, a lot of evidence that this case is solvable. This poor girl was presumably abducted. I really don't feel that she went willingly with someone, especially if she did pass up rides from other people. She was sexually assaulted. She was violently stabbed to death, and somebody really did take the time to steal her stuff. It's just a devastating case. But that's it for today, guys. If you like this video or any other video on my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. I'll be back next week with a new video, and I'll see you then.